I've never backed away from a challenge.
Right.
It's just not who I am. I just have always tried to work harder than everybody else. That's how I want to live my life. That's how I want to run a company. That's how I want, my kids to grow up. That's how I want my backpack frame to be. It's simple to think of, but man, to pull it off and make work, that was a different thing. We're not going to put it out unless it's right. We're just trying to make it a better experience. We're trying to raise that bar. The whole thing was at a point where if we can't get this thing figured out, we don't have a product. It came right down to the last few weeks, but it was a good challenge and we met it.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to the Wilderness Attitude Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Waddell. We got a great show for you today, but before we get to that show, I kind of want to open up a little bit and just thank my listeners who are tuning in. The emails that are coming in are great, and I just want to throw out that I really, really enjoy what I'm doing, and what I'm doing is to share the stories and the adventures and the growth of men and women who utilize the wilderness, who live in the spirit of the wilderness to better themselves, live their lives, and share with other people their stories, their failures, their growth, everything that encompasses, becoming a better man and better woman every day. And so what I enjoy doing about this is sharing these stories with you. And today we have an amazing story about a couple gentlemen who, one from Kansas, one from Northwest Florida, who end up meeting each other in Idaho after they moved there over some kids' football games. And then they realized that they even go to the same church, right? And we know how sometimes church, right? You go to church, you may not know everybody that sits in the back row, and you may not know everybody that sits in the front row, especially in a big congregation, right? So pretty cool how these two gentlemen came together with really kind of different backgrounds too, and realized that they had some things in common. They start talking to each other. They start realizing they like the outdoors. They like the wilderness. They go out. They find a way to go hunt together. They make some time. Their families grow together. And before you know it, they find themselves in this predicament thinking that we would like to have a better backpack. Every backpack in the every backpack in the world, right? I mean, they all have some things that are a little bit better or not so great, or this pack you like this buckle system, or on this pack you like the expanded sleeves, or on this pack you like the different lid. I mean, they're all so different the way they fit. But there came a time where these two gentlemen decided that there was a way to take all of these top things in the packs that they love and enjoyed and bring them together. And that takes some entrepreneurial spirit. That takes some thinking outside the box to figure out how to put this all together. And so the beauty of this story, from my point of view, is that, they came together, they thought it through, they figured out a way to start. They didn't just him and ha about it and complain about it. They found a way to make this happen. And through their faith and through each other, through their families, they brought it to market, and it is amazing. It is a game changer, in my opinion. So I'm super glad to have with me today Dennis Stokes. And of course, he's representing also his partner, who couldn't be with us today because he's traveling and doing a ton of stuff, but that's Joe Elliston. And these guys are Initial Ascent backpacks. Dennis, thanks for being on with me. I really appreciate it, man. How's your day going?
Man, it's going good, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. When I first got to meet you at the Western Hunt Expo, I had heard about your backpacks from a couple of guys who I podcasted with. And then also another gentleman who reached out to me and said I needed to go check it out. And so my curiosity started getting the best of me. And so I got a little bit of free time, wandered my way down to your booth. And I mean, I think that was Saturday afternoon that I made it down there, or maybe Friday afternoon. I told you I'd be back on Sunday. because that was going to be my free day to cruise around and check some stuff out. And I came back, and you were getting whooped on Friday afternoon by all the people in your booth and everybody just digging into this pack and dissecting it and, and really trying to check it out.
Yeah.
And that had to felt pretty good, huh?
Man, that was so fun. I mean, we were digging in. We were busy. I mean, I had to actually go over to Mountain Ops and that morning because we got slammed the day before. And I went over to Mountain Ops and I said, "Hey, I'm in a booth over here. We're going to be here all day just like everybody else. Give me something to make it through the day." so, so my guys, between that and I do have to say, I had some wilderness athlete. I had a stash, and so I was doing that and wilderness athlete all day. And between the two of those things, kind of got me through. But man, I had so much fun. It was just great talking to everybody, meeting everybody, and just telling our story. And
Right.
the biggest thing was just the hands on. They got to see it, they got to touch it and feel it, and see how it fit them. And there were guys that were, I mean, they were kids that came over. They were 5 foot nothing, and then we had a couple of gentlemen that were 6'7", 6'8". So we actually got to fit our pack on all different sizes of guys.
Right.
From 27-inch waist all the way up to 42-inch waist or something.
Right.
And it was fun, man. We had a great time.
Yeah, you surely looked like you were getting whooped when I got to you on Sunday. I mean, it was a little bit of a slower day on Sunday, but not too bad. But man, you guys were just like, holy cow, man, this is a mind blower, right? I mean,
It was.
because we got a little bit ahead of ourselves there, but for the listeners to know, this was a 3-year journey, and we're gonna go through this journey with you. But you guys launched your pack at the Western Hunt and Conservation Expo in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
And so what an anxiety filled moment to finally get there, get this in front of the public hardcore, right? And for you went home with very little product left. So the response was excellent.
It was amazing.
So that's something to be said there.
Yeah, it was amazing. I'll never forget the 10 minutes before the show started on Thursday. I mean, I was so anxious and I just couldn't sit still, but it was excitement. It was
Right.
like this moment after 3 years of all that we've gone through is finally here. And we're going to do this thing. So,
Well, let's get back to the beginning of the story. All
all
right.
right.
So let's get back to Dennis Stokes from Northwest Florida. You grew up there, plenty of hunting in your life there with local critters, right?
Yep,
And
yep.
and then you find a way to move yourself, well, and fishing too, right? But then
Oh
you
yeah.
find a way to you brought up a comment to me when we spoke the other day about where the red fern grows.
Yeah.
Look, right? And
Yeah.
how that just shaped your life.
So in the South, and I don't know if this is everywhere, but I know in the South, it is a requirement at some time, when you're in elementary school, to read Where the Red Fern Grows. One of the
Right.
greatest books of all time, in my opinion. But for a little boy that lived in the country, to read that book and then, of course, watch the movie, and I can't tell you which one I did first,
Right.
but but to see that little boy and what he had to go through to get those hounds. He had a goal set, and he was going to buy a couple of coon hounds. And yeah, I had a couple of pairs of those coon hounds growing up, and of course they were named Dan and Ann.
Right.
So,
You
and I
even
did
told
them.
me you had a couple. You even told
Yeah.
me you had a couple of brothers, right? And you still called them that.
I mean, why quit there? But yeah, it was a great place to grow up, and I did a lot of trapping and just a lot of running around being a kid. There weren't any video games. It was just it was get outside. My parents had never had to worry about me staying cooped up inside. That's for sure.
Right. Well, that's the difference today, right? A lot of kids don't go outside, you know. And I don't think it's a requirement for children to in school to read or see the movie Where the Red Fern Grows either. But um, my wife's giving me a funny look. Maybe it is something they still do, huh? Yeah, she ain't sure either. But so anyway, I think I think what I liked about your story about that, Where the Red Fern Grows, is that it really lends to the future where you went with this backpack project, right? Like
Yep.
you stayed driven and you like you're gonna earn the money, you're gonna get your coonhounds, you're gonna do like you found the way to work that process. Um, and in between there you had a lot going on in school, you know. I mean, I think your background's pretty cool. I want our listeners to know more about your master's in animal nutrition and how
Yeah.
that kind of I think that was the catapult that got you to Idaho, right?
It was. Yep. It was. I earned a master's in ruminant nutrition, which is ruminants. Cows have a rumen, and so it was
Oh, hold
cattle
on a second.
nutrition.
What's a rumen?
A rumen. Okay, so in a cow or in a camel or uh, alpacas, llamas, all of these are ruminant animals, and actually they have a four-chambered stomach, and so a
Okay,
rumen is actually a fermentation vat that helps with digestion, basically.
gotcha. So that's how they can eat whatever they want without getting a twisted gut or colicking, right? Is that what they call
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much, So they're amazing animals and with an amazing digestion system. So that's uh, that's kind of what brought me to Idaho. Got my
right.
master's in that, and I could go one of two ways. I could go the beef side of things, or I could go the dairy side of things. And ended up Idaho was one of the fastest growing dairy states in the U.S. at the time, back in 2000. And so I moved to Idaho, and I I have to be honest with you, from Florida and then going to school in Alabama, I didn't even know where Idaho was. I mean, most of my friends and family, it's hard to say, but most of them got Idaho and Iowa mixed up.
Me. Yeah, that's
so,
me. And I live in
so
Colorado and I still did
yeah,
it.
exactly. So yeah, I took a job with a company out here in Nampa, Idaho, and worked for them for a couple years, and then decided that I could do more as an independent, and so I formed my own business, and that's kind of what I've been doing for the last 16 years, basically.
And now you've thrown in this whole backpack idea of initial ascent,
Yeah,
and life's gotten a little crazy, huh?
a little crazy, you bet. But it's one of those things that like in the dairy industry, I love what I do. I get to work with people, and I get to influence, and I get to help animals, and so I love what I do. I've never worked a day in my life, and so the same thing with initial ascent. This was a passion of ours,
Right.
and kind of to back up, when I first came to Idaho, I had no idea about Western hunting. I mean, this was back in 2000, and all I knew was a tree stand or
Right.
running dogs, chasing hogs, and even growing up, some running dogs chasing deer. You could do that back there, and I had no idea about Western hunting, and so I had some friends that actually took me along, and my first couple of years took me along on an elk hunt, and boy, was that an eye opener. Now the
Right.
friends that I went with, they kind of they did it as a vacation, which I think a lot of people do, which is great. Uh, but they went and set up this elaborate camp. You know, they had a couple of wall tents. One of them was a cook tent. You know, it
Right.
was the whole nine. But I
Nice.
soon figured out what they liked to do. You know, we would go out for probably 2 or 3 hours in the morning time, come back, and they start drinking beer. And
Right.
so I got maybe the wrong idea of what elk hunting was all about, you know, in Idaho, but had a lot of fun. You know, and that's what it's all about, you know, just having a lot of fun and being with friends. And so those were kind of my first 2 years of hunting.
Right.
And I actually, after, so my wife got pregnant. We got pregnant with our twins. Shortly after that, I think we were here for, let's see, we were only here for a couple years, and she was pregnant with our twins, and that kind of shut things down for me as far as hunting. For
I'm sure.
we had no family up here at all. It was
Wow.
just she and I, and I had just left my company to go off on my own. So there was a
Uh-huh.
lot of stuff going on, and so I actually quit hunting for several years. And when my boy turned, well, he's the oldest twin, so by 2 minutes, I think he turned 7, and he started showing an interest. And then I'm
That's
like,
cool.
hey, this is cool, you know. And he loved watching Ted Nugent on TV. So, and believe it or
Love
not,
it.
you know, that dude, he wanted a bow, and to he wanted to go hunt. And I'm like, hey, this is all right. So this gives me an opportunity to get back into something I love. And so that's
Yeah.
what I did. That's what got me back into it.
That's awesome because, it's one of those things where for me, when my kids started actually getting out and hunting, it brought me to that next stage of hunting.
Hmm.
So we all kind of go through these stages, right? Where you're a beginner hunter, maybe it's the wall tent hunting, right? And then you kind of, I mean, there's no wrong way to hunt elk, but there's
Right.
just our preferred method of hunting elk. And
Exactly.
so we move our way through it to the point of where then we learn what we learn and we achieve some of our goals. And then it's helping others achieve their goals, whether it's friends or kids. And then it kind of gets to that maybe that next level where you realize that maybe your dad or your uncle or the people who are getting older that maybe have brought you into hunting. Now it's time to focus on them because they only got so many left. And then you get to the point of where hunting becomes more all the way to the point of where you just want to go out and take pictures of them,
Right.
because you've fulfilled yourself in hunting in almost every way. But I know that for me, when I reached the level of getting to take my kids out, man, it was awesome, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like a couple of years ago, I didn't get to kill anything, and but I helped a friend get an elk. I helped my daughter get a buck. I helped my son get his first cow, and there was lots of success. My nephew, there was tons of success all around me, and I felt like I had a piece of that, and it
Yeah.
filled my heart. Filled my soul doing that. And
Oh
so,
yeah.
you know, it's a good feeling, isn't it, man?
It really is. It really is. And you know, matter of fact, the first time I ever went to the Hunt Expo, my son noticed, he saw an ad or something that Ted Nugent was going to be at the Hunt Expo. Dad, we got to go.
Yeah.
I, all right, I don't even know what the Hunt Expo is, but we're going to go. It's got hunt in it, and we're going to go and
Yeah.
we're going to have fun.
Yeah. You
So,
had me at Hunt. Where is it?
right, right. So we did. And we actually didn't even drive there. We hopped a plane and flew in there. We were kind of on a limited time basis, but man, you talk about a kid in a candy store, both of us.
Both of you.
And
Yeah.
oh, it was so much
And
fun.
and you get to meet Ted Nugent?
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was it was awesome. We got to talk to him, you know, and it was so funny because here's my boy. He's 7 years old, and I'd always taught him, hey, when you go to shake somebody's hand, you let them feel it, you know.
That's right.
you let them feel it, and you look them straight in the eye, and you talk to them. And so we're in line, about 30 minutes in line, and I'll never forget. I turned around to him and I said, "All right, you remember how we shake hands, right?" And yes, sir, yes, sir. And he went up there and he shook Ted Nugent's hand, and you should have seen the look on Ted's face. His eyes about popped out of his head. He looks at the boy, and he looks at me and he says, "Good job, Dad."
Yeah, man. Yeah, right.
Oh man, and my son was just beaming from ear to ear. He was like, "Dad, that's what you always told me." And,
Yep.
it was just great.
What a
But
cool
what a
moment,
highlight
right?
to meet that guy.
Yeah, and then he says that to you, and your son gets to see that too.
Right?
That it come that full circle just sets it in stone for a child. You
Yep.
know, and then it it just empowers them forever.
Yeah. And ever
That
since
one
then,
moment.
he's trying to break people's hands. I mean, he's trying to grab a hold, and just make sure that they know that he's a man or about to be.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's well on his way.
well on his way.
Anyhow,
That's
right?
right.
Well, I'll tell you, that's a good story coming along the way because it speaks volumes for you. It speaks volumes for what the values you have that you're passing along. And I think that I can see those values being passed down through your products that you're developing because you take notice to the little things. You take notice to the values and the integrity and the things that move that shape the product that you're making in this backpack, right?
Yep.
Those values aren't just something that we do to people, right? Those values are that carry on to our animals. They carry on to everything we touch and everything we believe in. And so, and I think that, I honestly think that Joe has the same mindset, and that's what gravitated the two of you together.
Yep. Oh, he absolutely does. And you know, um, you know, God kind of he knew what he was doing. I think when he put the two of us together. And I'll tell you a quick story about how that happened.
Okay.
So my wife and we go to this new church, and there's this guy, and he's a short guy about my size, greeting people at the door, and he looks exactly like a guy that I played ball with in college, and I mean spitting image, and to where I had to look at him a couple times.
Right.
And, I told my wife, I said, "That's Day Day," a guy named David Thornton. And I said, "That's Day Day." And she laughed. And so I'm not real social. We kind of like to, be in our own little bubble. And so that's another reason this is really good for me. But
Right.
I bet it was a year. We sat up there in church and we would see this guy and we'd just say, "Hey, there goes Day Day," and and it was a fairly good sized church, and I never went and introduced myself. And
Right.
so then the next fall came, and my son signed up for football, and we're out there, and probably 4 or 5 practices go by, and we see this guy, and I'm like, "Carrie, there's Day Day." she she said, "You got to go talk to him." And so about, I don't know, fourth or fifth practice, I wandered over there and he kind of looked at me and he came over and introduced himself. And so we just hit it off from that point. And
Right.
I think we even talked about hunting on that day that we met, but we hit it off I told him the whole story about he looked just like a guy from college that I went to school with, and it was just funny, but we knew we had kind of a special bond from that day, and we share a lot of the same values. Faith comes first. Everything we do is led by faith. Um, Family is second, and
Mhm.
then work and passions, they might be intermixed, but that comes all after those first two. So,
Right.
I knew that that this guy was after my own heart.
Right. Well, two peas in a pod, if you will. I mean, you guys definitely, when God can bring people together to show them the basics of what life is, but then open the doors to continue for you guys to find success that will help you balance faith, family, business, fun, right? That's when you can look back and through that 3 years, then you can say to yourself, yeah, man, right? Like
Yeah.
this is awesome.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
Joe, we got a little bit of background on Joe. I mean, Joe came out of Kansas, right? He was sales and marketing for that kind of business sense coming from that corporate world, but you come from the self-employment world and you guys bring that together. I mean, obviously I'm sure it's worked, but was there ever times where you guys looked at each other and you're like, no, man, no, like it needs to be this way, or no, it needs to be this way? Have you guys ever come through those through any turmoil like that? And
Not really. We've had constructive um, discussions,
of
and
course,
he like I say, he's from a marketing background, and I really know nothing. That is a weak spot for me. But I come from a background of I'm always thinking, trying to make things better.
hmm
I'm always coming up with stuff. I got drawings laying all over the place. Just always thinking in that regard, and just trying to make things better, whether it be trying to make the world better or trying to make a backpack better. Um,
right,
and Joe is kind of, so the beauty of our relationship is that we complement each other very well. Where I'm weak, marketing, I know nothing about marketing. Um, Joe's very, very, very strong there. Um, and then I'm strong in some things that Joe may be a little weak at. So it's a perfect complement. And man, we just have a lot of fun. I mean, we're both in our 40s,
right,
and I don't know many people in their 40s. I mean, let's be honest. You look at the people in the industry and the guys that are out there, starting stuff. There's very few of them that are in their 40s. A
yep,
lot of guys in their 30s. There's a lot of guys in their 20s that are doing some amazing stuff out there. I mean, even in our own sector with the backpacks, there's young guys, doing some great work out there.
right,
So it was quite the step, but I've never backed away from a challenge. I just
right,
it's just not who I am. I've
right,
I've always I'm a little guy, and I've always had to just work harder than everybody else to get what I want.
right,
And whether it be from you know coming up playing sports, I always had to earn my spot and prove myself. I wasn't naturally talented. I definitely wasn't naturally of size, but I just have always tried to work harder than everybody else. And there's nothing that I can't do. And with God's help, I mean,
right,
that's first and foremost,
right.
Philippians 4:13. So yeah, I keep that in the forefront, and we just roll on, man. I'm having a lot of fun. This is a blast.
I mean, you believe in that. I mean, close to your
Yeah,
wrist, right? I mean, you
yeah,
gotta, you know,
yeah. That's my favorite Bible verse there, Joshua
right,
1:9. So
right,
yeah, I live by that. I don't. You hear some people say that they don't wear their faith on their sleeve. Well, I actually wear it on my wrist, and it
right.
doesn't come off. So,
That's
and I'm
awesome,
proud.
man.
I'm proud of that. So
That's awesome. You're darn right. When you really believe in something, you'll tattoo it on you and
yeah, you
you'll
bet.
live by it because you'll see it. I mean, I'm the same way. The minute I decided I was all in on wilderness attitude, I went out and put it on for
Nice.
everybody to see, man. It's like that's just the way it should be. And
Absolutely.
but I think that living that and then making a product like a podcast or making a product like a backpack and starting a journey is super anxiety filled. It can be
Yeah.
scary, but at the same time, it's the same for me. Like you said, I'm not afraid of the challenge, and I need challenge in my life. That's what puts me in the arena of feeling good about myself, or maybe more manly, or maybe more of a provider, or maybe a lot of different things. Maybe that's my egocentric mind reaching out there to try to make it all better. But at the same time, I just, when you find that passion and it's like, I could do that,
Yeah.
you know, and that's where Initial Ascent started the same way, right? Here you
Yep.
guys leave the Hunt Expo, and you guys look at each other and said, we could make a pack that works as well, bits and
Yeah.
pieces of different kinds of packs and this and that, and create your own, and make something that you felt would be better.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we've both owned tons of packs over the years, and and I got to say, I mean, there are some good pack companies out there. There's some good packs out there, no
right,
question. And I've owned most of them.
yeah, me and
Um,
you both, we had a short conversation about how we won't use the terminology on here, but we're pack gurus, right?
Pack gurus. That's right. That's right. And so, but yeah, just and I'm of certain stature and everything, and all packs don't fit me as well as probably most people. But yeah, there's just a lot of things about a lot of packs that I like, but there's always something about a pack that I don't like. And so, Joe and I just said, man, why don't we just make our own? And we had come from Hunt Expo, several years back, and just said, we can do this. And so then we started the journey, and just haven't looked back.
Well, that's how things start, I mean, even for me, I just wanted to start a podcast because I just wanted to share people's stories. I'm meeting all these amazing people, and all these things that they're doing at their lives in so many different ways, and I love to connect it to the wilderness part, because I think that everybody, whether they want to admit it or not, has a connection to the wilderness, to the outdoors, right? And I
Right.
think it's an integral part to having a healthy mind and body and spirit, is to have some connection with Mother Nature in whatever way. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how.
Yeah.
And and that's kind of thing. I did it kind of for me in the beginning, and kind of for the people to hear this stuff. And that's kind of what you did. You guys start with trying to develop a backpack that works for us, right? And
Right.
then before you know it, man, you're round in turn one, and it's like, holy cow, like this could be a business thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, we started out with what's going to be the foundation. We've got our foundation. The backpack has to have a foundation. Especially if you're gonna be packing the type loads that Western hunters pack out. Um,
Right.
and so we went through just tons and tons of drawings. We talked about tons and tons of materials. Um, that was a lot of fun, by the way. Just going through that, and some of the drawings. I was looking back the other night at all of the drawings and diagrams that we had. There was some bad stuff, man. there was some, I mean, just crazy looking stuff that I remember forming a frame out of a coat hanger just to try to get a shape assembled, you know.
Right.
And but fast forward, what we ended up coming up with was a really cool shape that I think complements not only the user's back and its ability to carry heavy loads, but also complements whatever you're carrying. So, I don't know. We decided on, we had to decide on what type of material we were going to use, and whether we were going to use, aluminum, or, some type of poly material, or, carbon fiber. And, Titanium was another one that we looked at, but we eventually decided on carbon fiber. And so once we decided what we were going to use and decided the shape, then all the fun began.
So you came up with what you call an integrous frame,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
And
explain what that means to the listener.
okay, so integrous or
Integrous.
integrous, I'm that's a word that's not commonly used out there, and but simply means with integrity. And I thought that was really cool because that's how I want to live my life. That's how I want to, run a company. That's how I want, my kids to grow up. That's how I want my backpack frame to be. And Joe and I thought this is great because it has to have a lot of integrity.
Right.
So it kind of all went together. It was
Yeah,
just perfect.
makes sense.
It was just perfect for us.
And
So
you guys ended up with this. You ended up with this cool, really cool curve to your frame, which really complements, I think, just the normal person's shape,
yeah,
right? Your normal curvature of your spine kind of idea, right?
yeah. That's and and there's folks out there doing that type of thing, but we thought that was essential, to what we were doing, and to we've gone through. We're on our 14th generation right now of the
Right.
frame. And people ask me, well, why in the world would it take you 3 years to release something? And why in the world would it take you 14 generations?
Right.
We're not going to put it out unless it's right. And it took 14 generations and testing and testing and testing and just doing different things to come up with what we came up with and what we released. Um, will it be the last generation? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
But with that shape in mind, that was probably there were probably 4 or 5 generations that were just related to shape as you look at it sideways.
Right.
Um, and what we ended up with, we started out first with just a complete flat, piece of carbon fiber or carbon fiber sandwich. Um,
Mm-hmm.
well, it didn't take too many loads, to carry that. We figured out that wasn't going to work, and so then
So
we
so here you are out in the woods, and tell us what you're doing when you kind of come to some realizations about some of your design, and you know
yeah.
tell us a
Okay.
story about. There's got
So,
to be a good one connected to
oh,
that.
there's a good one. I'm halfway across the world in New Zealand.
Okay.
So, yeah, Joe and I were kind of jumping the gun a little bit there because, we've been working, on the frame. We worked with two different engineering firms to come up with that, and we got actually the frame shape that we wanted,
Mhm.
and it was actually a wood core put together by fiberglass because we wanted to test the shape out and test our system that we were putting together.
Right.
It was in its infancy, I have to say that, and we both knew it. But we both took the chance of taking that system over there. And, since we've owned multiple packs over the years, we were piecing and parting, because we had to get the frame first before we got any of the soft goods.
Right.
So we were just strictly testing the frame. So we jumped off the deep end and took the frame, both of our frames, to New Zealand, not knowing if it was going to work or anything. And so the first thing that was packed with our new frame was the horns and cape of a red stag, and that was quite the load.
That's a good load.
It
Yeah.
is. And, you know, it worked, but we knew that that straight thing wasn't gonna cut it. And so, but it took that, going halfway across the world to find that out, and that's just happened to where we tested it. And so yeah, that was the first lesson, and it was a load, but we were like, I think we've got something here, but we got to modify it a little bit,
We got to do a little more work.
a little
Well, and
bit
then
more.
I love the frame, how it curves with you and leaves the openness behind your back to breathe, and
Yeah.
how that all worked, and the different, the um, your harness or your shoulder harness straps and how they work, with the system you have. We'll talk about that some more. But the one cool thing that really stuck out in my mind was on the frame where you can hook your sling of your rifle into that little notch.
Yeah.
I thought that has got to be the simplest thing in the world to think of, but right? Holy cow. That's
And,
awesome.
yeah, and it's simple to think of, but man, to pull it off and make work, that was a different thing. And that
Was it?
was one thing that Joe he wasn't gonna come close to releasing this frame until that particular thing worked. That was
Wow.
his deal. He said, "That's money. We got to have that thing, man." And
I,
so, a couple of the design changes were little tweaks on that, and we
right.
finally got it to where, and it's on both sides.
Mhm.
And so, basically, what it does is it's a deep enough channel, and we actually engineered a little curve to where if that strap gets anywhere close to that channel, um, it just falls right in there and it won't
Mhm.
come out. And so then all of a sudden, you're taking that weight off of your shoulders, and it's actually blending into the weight that's going into your hips,
Right.
like
Right.
it's supposed to. And so then when you go from that, then we've got this little thing on the shoulder harness itself. It's type of keeper that's used in the military, and your little 1 inch strap just goes right in there. You lock it down, and then you're not having to do this all day.
Yeah. Pull it
So
forward. Pull it
yeah,
forward. Right.
exactly. So that was one of the really cool things that we pulled off that I think people are going to really like.
Well, I mean, and it's so quick. I mean,
Yeah,
it's so quick in and so quick out, and there's no noise involved. There's no buckles. There's no extra weighted stuff on your pack to hold it all there, and
right.
it's secure. It's not going anywhere,
Yep.
right? I mean, I saw that. I'm not a rifle hunter, but I saw that and I was like, that's sweet.
Yeah. We did run into a lot of rifle hunters there at the expo, and when we showed them that, the eyes lit up. I mean, it
Yeah.
was it was it was pretty cool seeing the reaction from those guys.
So the frame is a carbon fiber frame. Now, is it a pancake type of? I mean, carbon fiber is obviously mashed, right, in the resin
Yeah.
or whatever. But it looked like you had multiple layers to that
Yeah, there
impression,
are
right?
multiple layers to that, and we're using a triaxial type carbon fiber along with a couple of other types in there, and they're strategically placed. The direction, it's strategically reinforced in certain places. But yeah, it is a sandwich. I mean, if you can imagine an I-beam, it gets its strength from the separation, and so we've got, I think, 3 layers of carbon fiber in some form or fashion on either side. So 6 layers in all, and the whole frame weighs 18 ounces, which we're really proud of. Um, and the way that's designed, I mean, you've you've heard problems with carbon fiber frames over the years. I mean, it's turned a lot of people off. Um,
Right.
we get that, but the way we've done this, we think we're gonna win that audience back. Um, it's stiff where it needs to be stiff. Obviously vertically, it's got to be pretty stiff. But the way we designed it and just the shape of it actually allows some twisting. And that is a difference that we have versus what's been out there in the past. We feel.
Nice. I mean, you guys have 14 generations of frames, 6 generations of bags, 5 gens on the shoulder strap system. I mean, you guys put a lot of testing in the field. You put a lot of thought before and after each generation to really bring something to the market. I mean, even down to the fact of where you were just weeks away from your booth at Western Hunt Expo that you'd already paid for, and still almost teeter-tottering on the idea of going and releasing it
Yep.
because it wasn't perfect. I mean, and from day one of deciding this was going to be a business venture, you held your ground and you held the same firm foundation of what you wanted to release through the whole process. And even to today, even after release, like you said, there could still be some new gens here, but that's a testament, I think, for what you guys are trying to deliver to the consumer.
Yeah, we're trying to make, like I said before, not only the world a better place, but we're trying to make it better for Western hunters or all hunters alike. Just anybody that puts on a backpack and carries gear into the field, and carries heavier loads out. We're just trying to
Right.
make it a better experience. We're trying to raise that bar. And I think, that's what a lot of these guys are doing. This industry, and I haven't, this is my first venture into this industry. This industry is a wonderful, wonderful industry, full of wonderful people. I mean, just the people we've met so far, it's just been amazing. And everybody has been just welcoming. And it's just a really cool environment to be in.
That's awesome. Well, and I think that, your guys' attitude and your approach, lends to the more welcoming aspect into the industry, right? I mean, you didn't come in saying, well, their backpack sucks or they don't know what they're doing or whatever. Like you say, it's a simple situation. You're making a backpack for yourselves, turns into this great story, great adventure, and you're coming into the industry with humbleness, transparency, and integrous aspects to what you're trying to do,
Nice.
and it's well received, right?
Yep. Yeah, it seems to be. I mean, the reception that we got at the expo was just beyond what I could have imagined. So, and you know how big the Hunt Expo is. I mean,
Mhm.
if we if we were smarter, we probably would have released it at a smaller show. Kind of got our feet wet. But 1 year ago at the Hunt Expo, when we were walking around there, um, basically Joe and I drew a line in the sand, and we were 2 years into our development. Um, we said, there's one thing that'll get us off our butts and really drive us to the finish line, and that's having a goal to release. And Joe
And
says, I
date.
think we should sign up for a booth. And I'm like, oh man, are you
This just
serious?
got real, man.
It just got real. It's exactly right. He said, no, I think we should. I think we'll be ready. And I've always been, I'm the one that's a little bit more cautious about things in this business. And Joe, as my compliment, he's already he's like, man, we've done the testing. We are ready. We can do this. That's the voices there. I'm like, man, it's got to be perfect. We can't release it until it's perfect. And Joe's over there saying, we've done the testing. It's gonna be right. We got to do it. Let's go ahead and do it. So we did that day, and we had 1 year, and we were a long way away from releasing. But man, a lot happened in the past year, and
Yeah, that was a go big or go home moment right there.
absolutely, he said we're going to put down our hard-earned money, in the deposit, and it's going to force us to be ready. And we were. It came right down to the last few weeks, but yeah, it was a good challenge, and we met it. So
So in this journey and adventure of Initial Ascent, what is your number one low point in this journey, and what at this point would be your highest point in this journey?
low point, I think, would probably, you know, I think the low point and the high point are going to come in the same. They're going to be in the same arena, and it all revolves around our foundation, the frame. The
Right.
low point was probably, I forget how many generations ago, but we had a mold made. So we had an aluminum mold. Now this is the coolest thing you've ever seen, and I'll send you pictures of it. But I mean, it is just awesome. It's our frame, but it's a big old piece of aluminum, and it's just a cool thing. So we do that. We have our vacuum bag that we use, and we come to find out we could not get the resin to get everywhere. We couldn't get the vacuum that we needed. Um,
Huh.
we couldn't release the frame after it cured. We couldn't release it like we wanted to. I mean, the whole thing was at a point where it was like, if we can't get this thing figured out, we don't have a product at all, and we are well into this process. So um, our engineer, came up with something. He talked to some sources out there. And one thing you got to know about this whole process, um, nobody has done this. Nobody's doing this. And so a lot of, if we run into little hiccups, we got to figure it out. Our engineers got to
Right.
figure it out,
You
because
ain't
this is a brand
Google.
new
You ain't.
deal.
You're not Google searching this answer.
No, no. He has to talk to some experts out there, and they can say, well, it might be this and it might be that. So we had at a point we had to kind of pee or get off the pot, so to speak. Um, and we kind of had to start that whole process over, um, for, and switch from the aluminum mold to doing what we're doing now. And what we're doing now is, uh, it's highly repetitive, so it's repeatable. Um,
That's
we can make multiple molds off of it, which we're starting that process, um, and it's just working. And so the
nice.
high point is getting that perfect frame. And I'm not talking about structurally. I'm talking about structurally and aesthetically.
Right.
So you had your low point where we were about to, you know, if we couldn't get it figured out, we were shutting down the business, to the high point of getting that first part out, and it was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's cool. So after going through some of those highs and lows and getting through where you're at and getting to the Hunt Expo and making that go, you guys now find yourself in production mode, trying to figure out how you're going to get this all, how you're going to meet the demand now. So
Yep.
now you got a whole nother set of things to deal with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's challenging, and we are working our way through that. Um, you know, um, Joe and I at this point in our lives are, we're where we can, the two of us can kind of handle, some things, financially and stuff. So, but we've never manufactured anything.
Mhm.
So, we're learning and just doing the best we can. But the thing is quality control. Is it's it ends with us. We have to pass it, before we'll send it out. So, um, that we're not taking that aspect out of it.
I think people would rather know the time frame it takes for them to get their backpack and know that when they get it, it's right.
Yeah,
Communication's key there, right?
that's right. That's right.
And So how did the name Initial Ascent come up? And then also on that question is who came up with the Mountain Dude?
That's a great question. There's a great story behind that too. So initial ascent to start out with, yeah, we were just throwing names out there. Really, it needed something to do with the mountain. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to be real original in that, but it was our initial, um, I guess. We hope it's an ascent. Right now, it's an ascent, but
Right.
it was our initial plunge into the outdoor industry. It was my initial plunge into a retail type um, platform. Um, so we just thought it worked. Um,
Right.
Initial ascent. So going past that, we had a gal that does a great job with our um, graphic design, and she was just tossing us some ideas back and forth. And she says, and she's not a hunter, but she loves the outdoors, and she she tossed us this idea. And actually, she sent it to me first because she was kind of my contact. Joe didn't
Uh-huh.
know of her, and she was my friend, my contact. And so she sends me this initial ascent in kind of this military typeface, and this mountain dude. And I'm like, what is that? And she said, I don't know. She said, I just drew it up and I just kind of liked it, and I thought I'd just send it over to see what you guys would think. And I said, all right, well, let me. I'm gonna have to send it over to Joe, but I don't know what I think about it. I said, I kind of, there's a couple of things that come to mind there, and so I send it over to Joe, and Joe is very black and white, you know,
Huh?
and very type A, and so I didn't. And with my background, I'm a little bit more. I'm a creative thinker. I write and I do different things, and um, so I can appreciate you know maybe some other stuff to where Joe doesn't have that appreciation. And he's also coming from the marketing standpoint. So, it's got
Right.
he's got to prove
Yeah.
because he
Yeah. This
knows
is his
what.
wheelhouse. This
That's
is it.
right, man. This is
Right.
his deal. So I sent it over to him. We talked that next morning. He says, you know, the mountain dude. He said, I showed that to the family. Nobody really liked it, but man, I can't get that guy off my mind. And I'm
Bingo.
like, you and I are in the same boat. I said,
Bingo.
I really didn't know what to think of it, but man, I couldn't get him out of my head.
Hmm.
And I think it was at that point Joe said, we may be on to something.
Yeah.
I said, because, who are we going to get to do that? Who are we going to get to be this guy? What are we going to have for an answer when somebody comes up and says, well, who is this guy? You know, we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. There was a guy that we sold a pack to at the expo that he was probably the closest to the Mountain Dude as we ran into. So, I
Right.
may be, and he knows who he is. I may be contacting him for some
There you go.
future, endeavors
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, because I don't know, you're a few years from growing enough goodness to be the Mountain Dude. I mean, you could hit up
Yeah.
Aird's Beard Oil at the Hunt Expo and ask him for some help, right? And be like,
Oh,
I want to look like this guy.
so speaking of that guy, he walks by my booth, and I said, "Hey," I said, "come over here." I said, "What do you think?" And I just pointed at the Mountain Dude, and he said, "His beard's not long enough."
Yeah, well, if you're a real Mountain Dude, you don't want your beard much longer than that because it'll
Yeah.
be in everything. It'll freeze and break off like a turkey's beard anyway.
Oh
You know,
yeah. Yeah.
it wouldn't
Me, I
work out
just
too
got a
well.
little. I got a little starter kit going, but it's been a starter kit for quite some time now. So,
Well, you're gonna have to roll with it, man. I mean, if I could grow a beard, I would, but my wife is like, nope, no way. You know,
My wife,
I tried to
yeah.
play hardball about 6 months ago, and it didn't go over real well because, she immediately says, "Well, then I'll quit shaving my legs and I'll quit shaving my armpits, and we'll see how long this whole thing goes around."
Oh yeah,
And I was like, "Okay, okay, whoa, whoa,
yeah,
let me sit down and think about it a little bit." Okay, I made up my mind.
yeah. About once a week, I'll tell my wife, I got to shave this thing off. This thing's killing me. It's just going nuts. I can't tame it. And
Tame the beard.
she said, leave something though. Leave something.
That's why I
She
just
doesn't
leave
like me
this.
barefaced, I guess.
That's all. I just leave this because I shave this off and I look about 10 years younger and I start getting pimples on my chin like I'm 17. It's just, ain't gonna fly, man. I keep my goatee around.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, from the time I saw the mountain, dude, I have thought the same thing. And so the minute you guys said that you couldn't get it off your mind, that's been the same thing I've thought of too. Not everything's supposed to be perfect like you think, but if it resonates and it stays in your brain, that's what a logo is supposed to do, right? And it
Yep.
works. I think it works. I think it's cool. And the one that you had etched into the carbon fiber frame, is that in every carbon fiber frame?
Every one of them.
Yeah, see, that needs to be stay that way because he's kind of that coin in your pocket
Yeah.
or that lucky ivory you carry or whatever. I mean, that when you're going up, you have the mountain dude with you, right?
That's right.
So as well.
That's right.
Yeah. That's what I think about it. Well, I went through a ton of your guys' pictures on Instagram, and that one is by far what sticks out to me. And then, of course, your guys' loaded up trailer going to Western Hunt was really cool. You guys talking about that, and I'm just super stoked for you guys. I think that, where you guys have come from and the things you've gone through and the foundation in which you're building this off of, your faith, and, just the whole thing is blending in and coming to reality. And I think it's just super cool. And that's why I reached out to you guys at the show and why I tried to get a hold of you because it's not too often that I throw a podcast out about someone's product because this isn't a real product deal show. It's not a gear review thing, But when I see a passionate situation and something that just the minute I met you and the minute I touched your stuff and the minute I seen what you guys were doing and the way you talked to me and just who you were, I was like, this guy's been through stuff. He's been through things in his life and his faith and his company and different things. And you can tell when you meet certain men that you can tell they've experienced, they've journeyed, they've failed, they've succeeded, they've applied, they've grown. And I don't know. I just think I have a knack for that, I guess, in some sense. But it felt good talking to you guys and getting to know you. And even through the podcast, thanks so much for coming on and talking about it. Is there anything that we didn't talk about yet that you feel needs to be told to the listeners?
Yeah, just a couple things, that kind of sets our packs apart from everybody else, in my opinion. You know, we've you get these packs and you've got webbing straps and you've got buckles and you got them flying all over the place, and you're out there and you're trying to load up your elk quarters or something, and you're just trying to get it done right, and you're not sure what buckles to put where and all that, and just gets kind of confusing. One of the things that we've done with our pack is we've actually come up, with an idea from the tent industry, and we've color coded the lock stitching beside the buckles, to where and it's hunter orange, so you just match orange to orange, top and bottom, and what buckles to hook up. And that's on our main bag. If you see a buckle that has orange lock stitching and you see another buckle that has brown lock stitching, they don't go together. So it's just a really simple system that we tried to do. Another thing, hydration in the backcountry and carrying your water bladder has never been an easy thing. I don't
Right.
care if you're just in the, the hiking and backpacking world or you're in the hunting world. So we designed a system to where, and we've actually partnered with Platypus with their 1.5 liter Big Zip bladder, and we put a pocket up underneath the main pocket of the lid. So it sits right there on top of your main bag. The tube runs out. And I actually encourage guys that get that to, if they're going to run a bladder, take and put a quick connect right there, on the outside. That way you can quick disconnect it, hook it into your filter system or into another bag that you're going to drain in there.
Yeah.
And then you can hook it back up to your tube. And that way you don't ever have to pull your water bladder out, until you can get home or something, and you go to clean it. But
And I think, and one more thing to that I'll
yeah,
add is that when it's in my sleeve in the main compartment, yeah, you gotta go get all this stuff out to get it out. And I don't know how many times I put it back in to hook it up and it wasn't right, and then I leak everywhere on the stuff in my main bag or different things. But also sometimes I pack my main bag and certain things will happen to where it pinches my tube off.
yeah,
And I'm stuck with no water without totally taking it off and redoing all the stuff. So when I saw the lid thing, I thought that the accessibility was fantastic, but also the location, because um, I'm not a Nalgene guy, although you do have that
yeah.
option for your
We've
belt,
got a
right?
little accessory that holds an
Right.
Nalgene bottle, and
Yeah.
or if you didn't buy that accessory, we've got a couple of expandable pockets that you can put an Nalgene in as well. The last thing I would say, that I can think of is our 3-point locking system on our shoulder harness. We've got 3 points of contact and 3 points to lock those shoulder straps into place. And that came out of trial and error. We started out with just having the Velcro on the frame, and the shoulder straps with the Velcro as well, and then we have these adjustment slots that go up and down, and we just had a piece of webbing with a tri-glide that we would slip through the frame, and that would be a piece to hold it on. But I was on a stalk and I went to, I'm going along there, and I went to lay my backpack down, and that Velcro gave way,
Right.
and ripped, and I'm
Right.
like, this won't do. We've
Got to
got
have
to come
something
up with
better.
something better. And
Yeah.
so with this 3-point locking system, we've completely eliminated any slippage by Velcro, and it doesn't matter what your torso length is. Like I say, we fit guys that are 5 foot, and we fit guys that are 6'8". So, you know, it's completely adjustable up and down. Even the load lifters are adjustable. One of the things with a lot of
Yep.
packs out there today, they'll be adjustable torso lengthwise, but
Yep.
the load lifters stay in the same place. Or you
Right.
have to buy a completely different frame,
Yeah.
to
I'll change
raise
the
those
whole
load
thing.
lifters up. So what we did is in our frame, we just have 3 different adjustment um, positions for the load lifters.
Right.
So um, I think that's a really, really important thing. A lot of them adjust, but a lot of them don't adjust their load lifters to where they maintain that proper angle. So,
Now, to change it up just a little bit, have a little fun here. I mean, I've really enjoyed the initial ascent conversation, and I think that your pack is amazing.
mhm.
Um, we'll get back to there in just a second, but have you ever worn an initial ascent backpack in your testing while you're playing in the band Chicken Dinner Road? Right? I mean,
Who told you about that, man? Yeah, I
so
haven't.
just for
I haven't.
so for the listeners, let's encompass this just a little bit more. So for 13 years, your man here, Dennis, has been in a band called the Chicken Dinner Road. And I mean, if the story behind Initial Ascent wasn't kind of cool as a name for a backpack in the company, I really got to find out what Chicken Dinner Road, how that came about.
Yeah, so Yeah, years ago, back 2005, we were, I was kind of getting into bluegrass music. I'd played country music all my life, and I was kind of getting into bluegrass music. And so, me and some guys got together, and we played open mic. And well, next thing you know, we need to have a name for our band. Well, two of the guys were out in Marsing, Idaho, not too far from here, and they were going on Highway 55, coming back into Nampa, and they passed this road called Chicken Dinner Road. And the one guy looked at the other guy and he says, "Man, that'd be a great name for a band." And so it
Oh,
was. But the story behind that, there are multiple stories, actually, but um, it had something to do with the lady that lived out there and the highway department. They were going to take and they were putting in the road system, and they were going to put a road next to her house or something. So somehow, I don't know if she had it. She, long story short, she had the governor out for chicken dinner one Sunday afternoon. And when they put the road in, the governor had it named Chicken Dinner Road. So I don't
nice.
know what else went into that story with the governor over at the lady's house, but anyway, it was quite the story, and that's how we came to be. So we dabble in music, and we've played here in the Northwest for the last 13 years, and it's a progressive bluegrass type music. Um, we've got guys from all over our valley that are seasoned musicians, and we write our own stuff. We and do tasty covers from anything from James Brown to oh, you name it. We go all over the place. Queen,
Nice.
So we have fun with it.
Sounds good. Well, I mean, I think it's more than a dabble if you've been doing it for 13 years.
Yeah.
I think you're kind of, being humble about it a little bit there. But I think that where can we find some Chicken Dinner Road
Oh, we're
to
on
listen to?
iTunes. We're on Spotify. Yeah, just go check it out on Chicken Dinner Road. So yeah, we've got a
Uh,
website. Nobody keeps up with it though. I got to tell you that. And we're on
that's
Facebook as well. So you
okay.
know,
Cool. Well, so listeners, when you're done listening to the podcast, you can move on over to iTunes and pick up a little Chicken Dinner Road and get to know Dennis a little bit better. What do you play? What do you do in the band then? What's your
so
position?
I'm the lead singer. I'm actually the last original member. But
Huh?
I play guitar and play mandolin as well.
Nice. Well, you got it going on, man. You're jack all trades, aren't you?
Yep, and a master at none, buddy.
That's the way to be. That's the way to be. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Thanks so much for being on. I appreciate it. I'm really hoping that here one of these days we'll get to have you and Joe on at the same time. We know he's
Yeah.
traveling and doing his part. And I guess you guys are going to be at the Idaho Sportsman's Show this weekend, right?
Yes. Yes, we are
So,
starting start tomorrow.
cool. That would be great. And is that the end of the road for
Um,
initial ascent at this
No,
point for the season?
actually, we've got a couple more things we're going to do. We're going to do a couple of events with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, both in Utah and Colorado, and we're actually going to do a show in Wyoming the first weekend of May.
So what shows are those? What shows are those specifically? Can you tell us what they
So
are and when?
yeah, there's so the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. I'm trying to think of what chapter it is, but it's the largest chapter in Colorado, coming up at the end of this month. It's their annual banquet that we've asked to be at, and then we're going to be at it's actually a 3D bow shoot that is a benefit for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. It's been going about 5 years or so, and that's down, I want to say, somewhere by Provo, Utah, and
Gotcha.
I think that's in June actually, and then the show over in Wyoming is a is a show that I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's May 4th and 5th that we're going to do. So it's in Cody, Wyoming.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, if you guys are in those areas after this podcast gets dropped and it fits with your timing and your schedule, maybe you guys can go check out Initial Ascent and meet Dennis and maybe Joe and go try on a pack and see if it interests you. I don't see why it wouldn't. Also, we want to quickly, Dennis, throw your shout out for military and first responders as well.
Yeah, we just owe so much to those guys, and we got a great deal of respect for those guys. And so, if you're military, past or present, first responders, first of all, thank you. But yeah, first responders, police, firemen, anybody that is a first responder. If you want to buy something on our site, please get a hold of us. We'll send you a coupon code for 10% off, and that's for as long as you want to buy stuff. So we just really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a good thing to do, man. We owe everything to them, and we appreciate what they do. That's for sure. There's no doubt about it. Well, shout out to mom and dad. Shout out to wife.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Yeah. My lovely wife. She keeps the train on the tracks. That's for sure. So my 3 kids, Trey, Kylie, and Ella, and mom and dad back in Florida. But our website is www.initialascent.com. Check us out on Instagram as well, Facebook, Twitter. Go on there. We'd love to hear from you.
Sounds good. And if there's any questions, you guys hit them up an email, send them a DM, whatever. Ask away. They're willing to answer. They're willing to put you, let you know how it's going down, so there's no surprises, and help you with what you're doing. I mean, if you're on the fence about accessories with the pack or anything like that, get a hold of them, find out what's going to work for you, make sure it's right, and you won't regret it. And also, you can reach out to me at wildernessattitude.com. And if you any questions that you have for me that I could have an answer to, by gosh, I'll give you an answer. And if I don't have the answer, then I'll find someone who has it. And we will make sure that you get the information you need one way or another. Well, thanks so much, Dennis. I really appreciate you being on, man. Thank you so much for your time. Sorry for a little bit of our technical difficulties in the middle. Tell your family thank you for your time, and we appreciate that a lot.
I will, Brandon. Thanks so much for having me, and sure enjoyed talking to you and getting to know you.
Awesome, man. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care, man.
Right on. Thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it. From us here at Wilderness Attitude, we appreciate all the follows and we appreciate all the likes. We appreciate the reviews on iTunes or whatever platform you're using. Thanks so much for those. Once again, you can reach out to us, wildernessattitude.com. You can reach out to us through Instagram, anything. We respond pretty quickly. And I guess at this point, just have a great day. And just a little thing, we might be working something out with Initial Ascent to try to figure out if we may have the new and rising star in the backpack world in the train to hunt world. So we'll see how this all comes together, ladies and gentlemen. Until then, the next podcast, thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.